And now I cannot see everyone, but what, wait a couple, like minute or two more, a couple minutes before we start. Just give people a minute or two to make sure we get on before we start.
This thing, sorry.
And I know I can't see everybody that's joining, just so I don't know. Hi, Dr. Osman. I see you have joined, and Melissa. I think I've said, maybe did. Hi, John, Megan, welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
Okay. Maybe one more minute, 12:03 maybe, and we'll just go ahead and start. I think that's okay.
Sounds good.
Ron? Okay, sounds good. Well, this is interesting. Okay. Does anybody need this? Okay. Hold on one second. I'm having a technical quick little thing. I'm sorry.
As you're waiting, or if you've just joined, you can go ahead and put your name and contact information in the chat to be cognizant of time. We have a lot to cover, so you can go ahead and put that in the chat. And as Barb's sorting out tech, we'll go ahead and get going. Thank you all for joining us today. We are, I don't even know what meeting number it is, but we're Livingston County ROSC, right? Welcome, welcome. Yeah. We're talking strategic planning. Are you good now, Barb? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I'm sorry for that. And so just definitely want to welcome everyone. My name is Barb Rumlevy, Community Health Specialist at Chestnut and working on the Livingston ROSC. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. We definitely appreciate this. As Nadia was saying, we do have a kind of very busy jam-packed meeting, so not going to take a lot of your time right now with welcoming you. As she said, just go ahead and put your, drop your name, your position and contact information in the chat, please. And what today is about is obviously the strategic plan. And if you had time to take a look at, that's great. And I had sent that out in the reminders. So I sent an attachment, and hopefully you did have time to just go over that. I just want to give a little hint out there. I'm hoping that we can, I think this is the perfect meeting to really hopefully start interacting and getting your ideas out there. This is definitely a draft of the strategic plan. And so what I wanted to kind of do is kind of let you know how this is going to work. So in a minute here, I am going to get this over to John Schneider. He is a recovery specialist here at Chestnut, and he is going to explain how we got here, how we actually worked on the strategic plan. And so he'll go over that information. And then we as a team have come up with 3 goals of the strategic plan. So he will go over briefly the 3 goals, and he will go into detail on the first goal. And so he will explain that. He will go over the objectives. So he'll go over, the first objective. And then there are going to be strategies, and you can look at those almost as possibly activities. And we do have a number of strategies under some goals. So we're going to ask that we're going to take a pause, you read through those, and then we're going to ask if you'd like to add to those, if you have comments about those, et cetera. So we really would like, to get some conversation going, ask for input. You may not have any, but this is definitely a time to do that. And then we're going to move on. And then, so goal 2 is, he will pass it off to Frankie, our next recovery specialist. And then goal 3, I'm going to go over, and Nadia will go over the next steps. And then we're hoping, we'll see how it goes, to have some open conversation, some discussion, so we can start to get a feel for the community and just really, get to know each other a little bit more. And I also want to point out, and we all know this, I think, that obviously this is not a sprint. We're looking at this as it's a marathon. And I just want everyone to keep that in mind. And we all wish, I wish this could be a sprint and we could just make these things happen. But anyway, that's all I really wanted to say. And with that, I am handing this over to John Snyder. Thank you.
Thanks, Barb. Welcome everyone this afternoon to our strategic plan. As we look at this screen, we all, or a lot of us in this profession, deal with cycles, and this is just another cycle. We start with our goals, our outcomes, our strategies, our measures and targets and results. That all revolves around our mission. So last month we talked about our SWOT analysis. We have that complete. We used our SWOT and our needs assessment to begin the strategic plan. So today we're going to be reviewing that plan, as Barb said. On the next screen, we look briefly at our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We've got, I just real quick want to focus on our strengths and our opportunities. I think we're all on board with this, how this comes together. We have a lot of work to do ahead of us in this ROSC and in our individual professions as we move along as council members of this. So keep this in mind. This is the formulation of what we're going to be talking about today. So Livingston County Strategic Plan for 2022. We've got 3 goals. We've got strategies for each of those. And this was developed by all of us. Our needs assessment and our groups, our discussions. So we have our goals 1, 2, and 3, and we'll go through the strategies starting on the next screen with goal 1, and to increase the access and services to services and how to identify those things. So in that increased services, resources for the recovery community, objective A, explore options to enhance low-cost transportation. So we all, from the onset of my meetings in this group in November, transportation has come up, and I feel like it's beaten me in the face for a lot of different reasons. And I know what it's like to not be able to get to that meeting. I know what it's like to not be able to get to that activity and be with the people I need to be with and move forward in my next steps in my life and my recovery. So strategy 1, work with existing transportation, reserve volunteer-based supports, identify funding, and lastly, explore forming a standing organization, a 501c3, to bring this into the future. As we've developed subcommittees, this is something that we're going to have to do. I've looked at grant funding for transportation above and beyond what the existing transportation services can provide. I'm not saying what's going to happen with that. No one knows at this point. But as we dig and as we build this portion to achieve objective A, we'll see more of that roll out. We'll see more options, I'm sure, to achieve these objectives and these strategies. So as you look at these 4 strategies, is there anything anyone would like to add to those? We'll give you just a moment to look through those if you haven't already.
John, I would, this is Kate Osman. And I'm sorry about, I'm having trouble with my camera today, so I apologize for that. You know, one of the things we talk about low cost transportation, getting people to, but what about, why are we, instead of getting the people to the services, how about bringing the services to the people? So would that fall under this category, or do we need a different category for that?
That would probably not fall under this category. As we look at our
Okay.
goals as we move on, I think we'll have more opportunities for that. And I think I know where you're going with that.
Okay.
But I think that would, and I don't cover the other ones after these 3, but I think there is a spot for that when we look at MAR and things such as that. And is that where you're going with that?
Not only MAR, but when you're talking about getting to meetings, why aren't the meetings places where the people are? Or if we're talking about getting to other therapy outside of MAR. So I think transportation is important. I absolutely agree. I mean, my patients struggle with this all the time, but how can we get those services to the patients instead of always thinking the other way of how to get the patients to the services?
Well, getting the services to the patients, yeah, it's a great way to look at it. It's a little bit different avenue, but we've got X meetings, and I'm just going to use Pontiac because it's the biggest city in Livingston County, biggest town in Livingston County. You know, it's variety of services, and where are they? So are we going to say start NA meetings or things like that? How many meetings can we facilitate, and where can we put them in the community? When it comes to activities, as we grow this ROSC, we are looking at recovery-based activities. So whether it's treatment, whether it's programs, whether it's activities, the logistics of that, not everyone with substance use disorder or mental illness lives in a 5 or 6 block area. And what I'm hearing when I'm in, and I'm going to use again Pontiac as the biggest example, is, well, that's on the other side of town and it snowed. Well, there's, you know, that's hard to achieve without bringing services to every area. Now, is that mobile? I don't know. As it is right now, I think we need to take these steps to get people to the existing services, because we just don't have the facilitators and the programs built yet to broaden that out through one town or the entire county at this time.
May I jump in?
Awesome. I agree. Thank you.
I just want to say, Dr. Osman, I think that will be in a later goal. Also, we can discuss. You know, I think it's going to be in a different area, but that we can talk about too, because it's a very important goal. I think yeah. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So, Dr. Osman, are you suggesting that maybe we add a strategy in this objective for the future?
Well, I do think it's important. I mean, I know, and of course, I'm coming at this with a different lens, you know, from a healthcare perspective for years and years and years, not just with substance use, but we've expected patients to go to an area. And I think we're trying to turn that a little bit to get, you know, to meet people where they are instead of making it a central hub. So I do think it's something that we could look at in the future, and but I completely understand what you're saying at this point.
Sure. So I've got that noted to potentially add that strategy in that category. And as we complete today, we'll flush out where that really needs to go. Okay.
I would just like to just kind of second Dr. Osman's comments there, and saying that, serving the 4th largest geographical county and having worked through COVID here at the health department, trying to provide vaccination clinics, we really had to kind of rethink how we've always tried to bring people to the centralized location of Pontiac, and at least provide something that, belonged in like the east side of the county and the west side of the county. So that it wasn't, because, if you're coming from Strawn to Pontiac, it's a solid 30-minute drive, same thing from South Street or so. It's just such a vast county that I second Dr. Osman's thoughts and thinking, how can we best bring services to community members while also thinking of how can we also get community members to come to us as well.
Sure. Have you implemented a strategy for that at this point, or started a service or services?
Yeah, so through COVID, we developed a lot of partnerships throughout the county with a lot of different community partners to try and find different locations that we would be able to host clinics or different educational avenues there. So, and that's actually something that right now with IHR, we're currently partnering with to try and provide educational opportunities and opportunities for us to distribute Narcan to community members there. So we're reaching out to local libraries in a lot of our communities, different community groups, things like that, that we may be able to bring the resources to individuals rather than expecting them to come to Pontiac all the time.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
So speaking on that, IHR, we do have embedded counselors in different areas within the county. Fairbury, we've been in Chatsworth in the past, and we've been in Cullum, but right now we're just in Fairbury, Pontiac, and Flanagan, partnering with the OSF medical offices.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, but COVID closed a couple?
Well, OSF had to close the Chatsworth office, and the Cullum office, we just didn't have enough flow to have somebody in that office. They're only open 2 days a week. We've been embedded in several different medical offices over the last 10 years at various times. So IHR is accustomed to kind of getting out in the community and meeting your clients where they are, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. That is great, thank you. If no other discussion on the strategies for Objective A, we'll move to Objective B, exploring housing options. And as you see, work with the Pontiac Homeless Coalition, incorporate persons with lived experience to speak to the need. Again, subcommittee, bringing recovery housing to rural areas with recovery supports, and invite recovery housing experts to share their knowledge. So going forward with the ROSC Council, we do plan on having speakers throughout this marathon, not the sprint, but we will be having speakers throughout this marathon to advise, and maybe not advise as much as give us pointers on what they have done in other rural areas. So we are seeking speakers with experience in all of these areas to add to these objectives and strategies as we move forward as well. So does anyone have any additional strategies or questions about these in this category?
I don't know if anyone, there is a massive HRSA grant that is, or the notice of funding has been put out for a massive HRSA grant that specifically targets residential housing, recovery housing in rural areas. I didn't feel that I was necessarily ready to take that on right now. Mm-hmm. If it's something though that this ROSC would want to look at, or if anybody else is interested in that, I'd certainly be happy to, help with that. But I don't know if we're ready to go there yet. We may not be ready to go there yet.
We may not be. We have discussed that briefly, and as we roll forward with the council and specific subcommittees, that is something that the Chestnut team has discussed very briefly as we're trying to move all of these objectives forward. But that is, and I believe maybe we talked about that with you in another meeting a couple months ago, it seems like, you mentioning that, Grant, but that is something we should, as a council, absolutely look at. Anything else?
Yeah, I can't remember if we discussed it or not. There's so many. HRSA's really stepped up with grants for rural areas. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for, honestly, everything that we're trying to work on right now. It's just finding the time and the manpower to make it happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as this council grows, we will have more opportunities for that in our committees and subcommittees, or in our council and subcommittees as well. And we're gonna, when we finish out today, Nadia is going to touch on some of what we will be doing or what we could be doing as a group or individuals. So we're going to address that a little bit at the end today. Anything else on objective B? If not, we'll move to C. Link community members with existing resources. So this one, I really believe that today we can add a couple more strategies to that. Promote continually updated resource directory. We are in the process of that. Livingston County has a really good grip at this point on how that's done. So that should be reasonably achievable in a short period of time. Advertise, market all new existing resources and services. So as we build programs, if we end up going out into the communities, if we go to different locations in the communities, as we build facilitators, whether that be through PLE or services that we already have, that will be updated. So as far as us, for all of our social media outlets, we will be using those things in a continual basis to let the public know. Now, that's maybe not going to specific areas, but that goes back to the objective A, if that strategy gets added, to be able to get that word out, going to Chatsworth or Strawn or wherever it might be. I grew up 2 miles from Strawn. There's not a lot going on that in terms of getting the word out there, no matter what we're doing or what IHR is doing. I mean, there's not much other than the bar you can walk into and see a poster board. And I don't know that we have anybody. I don't know that we don't, but I don't know that we do have anybody from Forest, Strawn, South, Chatsworth. So having council members from that area is going to help this entire cause as well. And then the Did You Know campaign. I've been a part of that in several other areas over the years, and it's just public knowledge. Did you know what ROSC offers? Did you know, or do you know what IHR or what the Gibson Area Hospital or what Dr. Osman or what any of us or any subsect of this group, what do they offer? And so a good start to this, we feel, is a Did You Know campaign, or Do You Know rather, because when we looked at our needs assessment and we go, so many people didn't know what was already there. So, we feel that if we put that out there as just strict information with the proper contacts to get back to the proper areas to answer those questions, and then the network with the council, community, and PLE to bring greater awareness to the supports that there are. Now, of course, we're going to see later that bringing supports that are developing is a little bit different category. So right now, do we have a couple of good suggestions on strategies to add to this objective? I think this is something we're all at this table today. I think this is something we're all familiar with, and what we do and how we can help get this out by linking the members with what there is today. So open the floor for suggestions to more strategies in this area.
Is this where we could add something like Dr. Osman was saying? About,
Potentially, absolutely. Getting the services to the people.
right? If that's the idea, to link community members with existing resources, we have the resources-ish, right? But to bring, but to bring them to the people. I guess I don't know how to word that necessarily, but
Well,
it seems like this would be a place for it, and obviously goes under the whole goal of increasing access to services.
right, right.
I agree. I was thinking the same thing when you started reading this, John.
Okay, Dr. Osman? Good place for it?
Yeah, I think so. I disagree a little bit that we have all of the services that are needed. I think there's, you know, more work to be done on that front, especially from the medical front. But yeah, we could put that in there.
And
I do
this is,
think,
I disagree a little bit, Dr. Osman. Well, let me put it this way. I see where you're coming from, but this is about existing resources. So, you know, we're building, everyone's building. So, Kevin?
yeah, I do think that we need to take into account that there's a lot of social media platforms. We utilize Facebook really well at IHR, but there is also Twitter, TikTok, you know, things are getting big every day. That we kind of forget about, or they're kind of obscured at times. So kind of like maybe branching out into more social media platforms, I think could be a way. And then I also think about some of those bigger radio stations that are down in Bloomington that we hear on the radio here. And I know IHR's on the radio in like the, you know, in the Pontiac area with that radio station, but not everyone's listening to that. Some people are 101.5, 96.7. And I bet if we reached out to them that we could call in and kind of advertise for free in that way too.
For sure. Social media is really where everything seems to be moving. And I even think, even I believe when we get to different goals also and objectives, there might be an area where we can explore that a little bit more even. And I'm saying in different strategies, there might be an area for marketing and such where we can even discuss podcasts, maybe something like that. I have been on calls for different ROSCs where they actually do a podcast and they have actually gotten pretty big. I mean, people it might be every Wednesday night. I'm just, you know, brainstorming out there, but I'm just saying, this is the way people, I mean, radio is there. If we could get free advertising, that's great. And social media is, you know, that I'm just saying, that's definitely the way we're looking at 18 to 45. That's the number one overdoses. Opioid overdose is the number one cause of death now in ages 18 to 45. And we have to look at what they are looking at. And I would say it's probably not, maybe it's not radio. It's probably a lot of social media and such. So that's a great idea, Kevin, I think. So we need to explore that. And that could be, we could look maybe to place that under a strategy under, you know, maybe it's under that objective C, maybe it's under a different goal. I don't know, but great idea. So anyway, that's just my input. Thank you.
John, I was going to jump in really quick. I wonder if we change on the third objective to existing resources to new and existing resources. So then we can add that other and it would cover everything. It's just a thought.
Perfect. I'm noting, I mean, I'm noting this stuff. So hold on. Thank you. Go ahead. Whoever.
Okay, and then I'm going to cover goal 2. It's reduce stigma around mental health and substance use disorder. And we kind of looked at this as stigma around mental health and substance use disorder, but also around other things like MAR and stuff like that. So I'm just looking at the time, kind of just read the objectives. And if you guys could just look over the strategies that go with the objectives. And if you have any questions or comments, then we can go over those. The first one is create community-based education and awareness. B is advocate for people with lived experience to take leadership roles in education. And then increase knowledge of medication-assisted recovery and its benefits. And these are the first three. We have 5 objectives under this goal. So if you guys want to take a minute and look over these, and if there's any questions or comments or additions, we can talk about that. Did everybody get a chance to look over it? There's nothing to add. Okay, then we can move on to the last 2 objectives for this goal. We have advocate for additional harm reduction initiatives and develop a stigma reduction campaign that explains substance use disorder, mental health, and promotes social inclusion. And these are the strategies that we have come up with for those 2 objectives. I'll just give you guys a minute to look over it.
So if any of you were listened to any part of the president's address on Tuesday night, he actually said the words harm reduction, and who's excited about that? I think we all should be super stoked that it's really coming to the forefront. And you know, these are things that we can actually make actionable plans around, right? So getting safe supplies to patients, getting well, the stigma reduction I think is a big one, but you know, this is something that as a ROSC we should be really excited about this part. I think getting medical providers is a really tough thing to do. Pushing for harm reduction is not nearly as hard.
Yeah.
So I do think that any harm reduction that would come into like this area right here would have to be backed by, the research. And I know the research is there, but we're going to have to show it in a way that everyone can understand it for it to even come close to flying. There is a huge stigma against harm reduction right here in this area. But I do think with the research, if we put it out there, we explain how it works, we get some testimonials from people that it's worked well for, that's the way. I think that's the path.
I agree. And I think like with possibly doing a stigma reduction campaign, we put in there like collecting data, getting all like the facts and stuff to be a part of that, as well as everything else. And then somewhere, I forget which objective it's in, is to invite speakers that and advocates for harm reduction to speak at ROSC or maybe even the community. Just so yeah, I think those are really good points. And I hope that they're addressed in here how you guys would want them.
Yeah, Kevin, I think that was really well put there. I totally agree with you. I think in our area in particular, harm reduction is going to be a little bit harder sell. And I think it goes back to Barb's initial point of, this isn't a sprint, this is going to be a marathon, because it's going to be a changing of mindset of our entire area here. So thank you for putting that in there, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I do think like even if we're talking about community events, it might be important to kind of have a separate community event for the professionals in the area, to kind of really wrap the minds around like what we're shooting for with the harm reduction, because there's a lot, harm reduction is a big word. So there's a lot of different types of harm reduction. And I think that if we can get, the professionals on the same page first, and then kind of plan on how do we bring this to the everyday community, because there's going to be pushback there too. I think that would be pretty important as well.
Thank you, Kevin. This is exactly what we want to hear and need to know. So really appreciate that. Because we need to dig in and understand the community big time. And this helps so much. And I can't wait to talk to you or Aaron, maybe meet meet up and really talk and find out more about why this is, because it's really scary. I mean, Livingston County is what, the third most overdoses in Illinois, and that is sad, and we need to change that. So
I
maybe
think
we,
that was, oh, sorry, Barb.
go ahead. No, please go
I was
ahead.
just saying that was a really good point to start with
The
some people, and then
professionals.
it will trickle down. I think that's a really good idea.
Perfect.
Is there any more comments or questions about the goal 2? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Barb, and she's going to go through our goal 3.
Okay, thanks, Frankie. Okay, so goal 3 is build a sustainable recovery community. And this is, goal 3 is basically what every ROSC wants to do. Okay, so what we're doing right now is, this is really, this is the first year. We're going to go over this and reassess every year. And this will change throughout what we're doing here. So objective A, promote ROSC council meetings. And gosh, this is little. So obviously there's quite a few strategies here. And this is very, very important because we want to bring more to the table. And I love seeing how many people have joined this meeting. This is great. And we want to keep it up and bring more. And we really would love to see more people with lived experience. So, please, if you know anyone, or anyway, let's just keep this going. So please read over strategies if you look over right now, and let's see if you can think of anything else or want to add anything. So I'm just going to pause here for a few moments. And I am not good at pausing. So I know there's a lot there, so I don't know if there's a whole lot to add, but Nadia or John, tell me when I should go to the next one, please.
I think just being cognizant of time.
Yeah.
If you
Go ahead and move on.
Yeah, and just if you, as a group, if you read through and you identify a strategy of the 2 objectives that are posted, go ahead and throw it in the chat.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. Objective B, increased recovery capital, personal, community, social. So yeah, read over those. I don't know why this is so small for me right now. Hold on.
This could be a plug. I will highlight, Barb, while you're trying to maximize. It is very small print. I almost need like readers myself, but anyways, provide support for peer education or PLEs and recovering individuals to obtain our CPRS, CRSS certification through financial and or supervision supports. So to elaborate on that a little bit within the strategy, for those of you who are aware, or those of you who are not, like the certified peer recovery specialist or certified recovery support specialist certification, it's a mouthful, it provides the opportunity to certified peers to come alongside someone who needs that support. And that has been a shift, a long time coming, and I think it's only growing, but that empowering and embedding peers in multiple agencies across the county and work to only help people with lived experience through peer support is really exciting. And I know more programs are coming online, and even if in your daily work you identify someone who has expressed an interest in receiving this certification or this training, I think as a ROSC council, that is really something we can sink our teeth into. That's a really probably the wrong way to say it, but that's something we can really provide that support and build that recovery capital. So I'm done talking now. So
okay, and then Kevin did. Hold on. Kevin did put something in chat. Objective A, get referrals from agencies for clients who have been successful after talking to the client and getting a release, of course. Yes, that is great. And we have talked about that. Clients who have been successful. Yes. Well, we had talked about Frankie, right? Like we would love to have people with lived experience and tell their story, obviously release and we do have a YouTube channel and kind of tell their story and start putting that on YouTube, highlighting people with is that kind of what you're talking about, Kevin, or no?
Yeah, to an extent. I think that, YouTube, some people would be comfortable with that and some people wouldn't, but just generally having people who have, a couple years of success under their belt,
Yes.
who are former clients who like we're pretty confident in that they're kind of taking this for the ride for the course of the rest of their life.
Sure.
Bring their knowledge, their experience into these meetings could be beneficial on getting a look at what the general public thinks, because there's a lot more of those people than there are of us, to be honest with you. So I think
Okay.
it's important in that way, just to be able to get it straight from the horse's mouth, so to
for
speak.
Sure. Well, I think that most definitely we can definitely add that as a strategy. I'm typing that right now. It won't let me cut and paste from the chat. I don't know why, but okay, great. Thank you. And then Joe Vaughn, IHR is in the process of hiring. Oh yeah, definitely hiring 2 more staff members with people with lived experience, which is awesome. That is great. And then they are also going to be either have their CRSS or working towards, correct? Is that right? Like that certificate.
They will have to work towards that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. And yeah, okay. And Nadia, I don't know if you want to speak to that or that's just going to be, they're definitely going to have and they will join the council, correct?
That's just one example of how to build that recovery capital, getting more peers trained, getting them embedded in the daily work. So yeah, that's great. So you're in the process. Are you getting our positions posted and can you briefly give an update on that, or job postings live? Or is that where you're at in the process, or you've already identified folks?
We've posted the position, so we have an opportunity to bring on 2. This is really through a crisis grant that we have but they can be used in different capacities.
Awesome.
Very exciting. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Okay. So move on to, okay. So objective C is encourage and enhance variety of recovery groups. So I think this definitely, I would like to, if we had a little bit of time, well, we are, yeah, about, it's almost 12:45. So, but I do think this is an area where I would like to talk about because this is so important. Strategy 1, explore what exists, the program, the times to access. Strategy 2, assess needs of new offerings. So this is also where I was kind of thinking Dr. Osman would be an area where we could explore ideas of like bringing, like you said, maybe bringing groups or meetings to people, or somehow thinking outside the box. I need to understand more about, meetings, like how many, I can look at the meetings, like how many are going on, how strong is the recovery community? Kevin, offhand, like what would you say about that? What's your gut feeling, or Aaron, or whoever, anybody, throw it out.
So I feel like, as far as NA and AA goes, like here in Livingston County, there's definitely a deficit. There's meetings in Pontiac. I think there's meetings in Streeter. And that's about it, and so somebody coming from Chatsworth isn't going to get to those meetings unless they can drive or they have somebody very reliable.
Right.
Same with Forest, even in Fairbury. Now, the next part of that is that because we're in such a rural community,
Yeah.
sometimes people feel kind of judged walking into these self-help meetings because of maybe whoever's running the meeting, they have past experience with each other and it's just kind of awkward, or they feel like everyone's talking about them when they walk in.
Yeah.
So in my experience in the county, those self-help meetings have kind of been falling. And not for everybody, because I'm not saying there's no success there, because there is some.
Right.
But I've been a pretty big fan of like what Smart Recovery is trying to do
Sure.
as far as those kind of meetings go. And I just feel like if they were ran by somebody like a professional person that has a little bit of authority over the way that the meeting goes, and like the confidentiality aspects of it would work really well. And if they could be spread out, you know, if there was one in Fairbury or one in Forest the next week or Chatsworth the week after that, you know, but that would take some partnering up with places and trying to find space and time and the manpower.
Sure. Most definitely.
That's kind of how I see it right now.
Okay, that's really good information to know. Most definitely. Thank you.
So, my nurse and my social worker, we have started the Smart Recovery meetings in Gibson and in Watsika, which is not obviously helping Livingston area. But if you have anyone, especially at those professional levels, that would like to get the Smart Recovery education in order to start the meetings, we have funds to cover that training. So I'm hoping to hire a few more people so that we can start some of those in Livingston. But if there's already somebody there that would like to start that, I'm, thrilled to be able to support that. I have had there was a nurse that contacted me, and she was going to email me again. She's from Pontiac, but I haven't heard back from her again on that.
That is great, Dr. Osman. Thanks for that information.
There was a Smart Recovery meeting for a brief period of time, and it was in Chatsworth. And I don't believe, I have not, Eric from probation might be able to speak to this, because she reached out to Ron Baker, who's the chief probation officer, and myself. This was a couple of years ago. So I don't feel like that is still going on. Is that, Eric, have you heard anything about that?
As far as I know, it is not going on any longer, but I'm not 100% sure of that. I know, like, they've tried in Fairbury to get one going, and it's kind of gone for a while and then faltered. And there's one in Dwight and Cullum, and
the Dwight, the Cullum, and the Fairbury one were not Smart Recovery, though. Those were more the 12 steps, the regular 12 steps, but.
At least one of them was Celebrate Recovery or something.
Oh, yes, that was in Fairbury. And then they disbanded. But there's a Celebrate Recovery here in town. But of course, that doesn't reach out to those smaller communities.
Kevin, may I ask just real quick? So the Smart Recovery, like you said, do you attend just like online somewhere?
No, I don't attend myself with Smart Recovery, but I know what the philosophy is and how it kind of, it mixes in the behavioral stuff and the mental health stuff with the recovery lingo, which I think is a piece that is missing from a lot of different kinds of, the self-help recovery groups.
Exactly, most definitely.
What happened with that Smart Recovery in Chatsworth was that the person that was advocating really hard for people to come to that meeting ended up kind of in the relapse process, and she took steps backwards and everything kind of fell apart.
Gotcha.
And so if this is something that we push for and we get somebody trained and certified in that kind of stuff, we've got to make sure that there's somebody that's going to be lasting, which there's no guarantees ever, but that specific person, I feel like, kind of got that going on her own, and it was a great idea, and it just kind of all backfired on her. But
I mean,
Recovery, not to keep belaboring this point, but it's nice because it's one of the few that's not a Christian based or usually housed in a church. And I'm certainly not opposed to that, but there are a lot of people who are just not ready for that yet. So I think that is one of the advantages of that program.
Right. We have to understand, that's part of what ROSC is that we believe that there's all different ways to recover. You know, it's AA is not for everyone. Celebrate Recovery is not for everyone. Smart's not for everyone. And that's a big, big thing that we believe in, you know, so because AA, I would say a lot of people right away, you know, it just, a lot of times it just turns them off about the higher power thing. And they tell you, I mean, your higher power could be a doorknob. I mean, it's not like, you know what I mean? But a lot of people feel if you don't believe in God or whatever, that does turn them off or whatever. I'm just being honest. So whatever works, to each his own is how I'm just gonna, we have to, I believe we have to look at it that way. So that's great. You know, the more the merrier. I say, let's look at everything. So anyway, I have to look at the time, but that's awesome. So please, if anyone is interested in, you know, looking into smart recovery, you know, anyone that would be interested. I mean, my gosh, Dr. Osman has funds for that. So let's think about that. I mean, think about it and, you know, think of anyone that might be, reach out. Dr. Osman's information is in chat and such, or reach out to me, Nadia, Frankie, John. So that is awesome. So, okay. I don't know if we want to add that. We could add that to strategy. We can think about that, I guess. Well, anyway, okay. So well, you can get back to that or put that in chat if you have any other thoughts on that, because that's a big one, a huge one. Objective D, sustainability, obviously, financially and community involvement. If you want to read those strategies, please go ahead and let me know your thoughts. Let us know your thoughts.
I do feel like one of the things like Dr. Osman was saying is like just the manpower to do some of these things. And I think as we build this, I am hoping, you know, more and more people, especially people in recovery, will be able to kind of fill in those spaces that we haven't been able to meet over the years.
Most definitely, Teresa. And we need, well, okay, so a big thing that I would love to do is, well, with these goals and objectives, start thinking about, and Nadia will talk about this. We'll just go to the next screen, I think, because you can talk about it, like subcommittees and such. And really, I would love to start a subcommittee with people with lived experience. So anyway, and start building that. Anyway, go ahead, Nadia. Thanks.
Sure. So as we just kind of reviewed all of these goals and then objectives and strategies to fall under each of these, there's some, I like to call it low-hanging fruit that we can start working on like next week or tomorrow. And it's about recognizing that we by ourselves or as an independent agency or even as a council, we can't get all of this done. Like we have to expand, we have to identify other community members to help us move this forward. So the ask now is the strategic plan that Barb had sent out. We will make a few modifications, but going off the working draft, take a look at it and identify an area where you feel like you can be impactful, whether it's for you personally, you within your capacity as your professional organization, or even if you identify, oh, I see this in somebody else and I think they would really be stellar at it. And kind of take some time to really think, how can I be impactful? We are all limited in our resources and our time. So we want to never duplicate services, but enhance what is there. And so this kind of leads to the next point, recognizing, okay, we meet at noon on Thursdays, right? If someone has a full-time job that's not in a helping profession, that's a really hard task to make happen. So one way to work around that is the development of subcommittees, especially getting people in recovery to the table and being mindful that they have a full-time job or a job that keeps them away of a new meeting. We are looking to expand into subcommittees, and that's really where the meat of this work is going to happen. And so thinking through the goals that we have identified, some natural subcommittees, maybe, for lack of a better term, a recovery and action committee. So people that are currently in recovery have there could be a time where it's meeting maybe in the evenings, and work to build community. Also identify maybe some community events, or upcoming, September is National Recovery Month. So can start some planning, begin now to get something launched for September as one example. Another is the whole idea of stigma. That is a pretty big elephant if you think about it. So what are things that we can start working on education-wise to the community that helps to inform the community and kind of help them make better decisions and are more apt to understand harm reduction as one example, right? Kevin, I think you said it nicely that we need to help provide them with the data and the understanding to help behavior change. So that these are, if you as a council member feel passionate, oh, we really need to have a committee focused on this specific thing, let's do it. And this is something that the internal ROSC team will support. If someone wants to lead it, that's great. Or it could be a co-chair type of a thing. We're working to build this out so we can actually get these strategies implemented. So with that, and being cognizant of our time, our next full council meeting is April 5th at noon. Nope, 7th. The date is wrong. Okay, there's a typo. Sorry, I can't count. It's that first Thursday of the month. So at noon. So first Thursday of the month at noon, mark it on your calendars. And so if you have any other ideas, thoughts, comments, feel free to contact us. There are lots of different ways you can reach us. So if you don't know, you can even just do the good old Google and find us. Another thing I'd like to highlight is the statewide ROSC website. It's through Governor State University. So you might be like, okay, Livingston County is doing this. You could peek at what other ROSC councils across the state have been working on. This is not a new concept. If anything, we're considered cohort 3 or 4 in the state system. So there is cohort 1 that exists. So these ROSC councils have been established since I think 2017, 2018, and have been doing really great work. So if you want to spark some ideas, you're welcome to check that out as well. And so with that, let's see here. I think that's it. Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any final thoughts, comments, questions? It is April 7th at noon. We'll send out a reminder as well.
Just want to put in one more plug to say that I know not everybody on call here is a Livingston County resident, but if anyone is and has connections with different community groups, faith-based organizations, things like that, that may be willing to host the Livingston County Health Department and IHR and providing an opportunity to distribute Narcan and give some an educational outreach opportunity for us, we would greatly appreciate it. And I just want to put a shout out to IHR and say thank you for all you continue to do here in the county and making sure that we get these resources out. We are very appreciative for the partnership here at Livingston County Health Department because it's hard for us to get this Narcan out, and they're wonderful partners in helping us make that happen. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.
All right, it is 1 o'clock. Being mindful of your time. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week. We will be in email correspondence. So even before there's potential, even before our next council meeting, that we might try and get some subcommittees launched. So keep your eyes out for some correspondence regarding that and move forward from there.
Yeah, and I just want to say also, this was recorded. So if you know anyone that might be interested in learning more, let them know and pass it on. And thank you so much for everyone for taking the time to join in. Thank you so much. Bye.